this is what happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object. You won't kill me out of some misplaced sense of self-righteousness. What did you do? I took Gotham's White Knight, and I brought him down to our level. See, madness, as you know, is like gravity. All it takes is a little push.
I know there have been hundreds, maybe even thousands of videos analyzing what makes a good or even great character, and today I'm about to add to that endless void of videos, but instead of taking a conventional approach to my analysis, I want to discuss what I think makes a good character and respond to some criteria I've heard time and time again.
The yes is just the crest, expressing myself the best. The recipe for death is testing me, I'm the next to be. Pressing heavy heat up on your chest until you rest in peace. Let the lesson be, don't mess with me unless you want your dome piece blown into the Chesapeake.
Now, I've seen thousands of movies and shows, each with a wide array of various characters and archetypes. While many people may agree on what makes a good character, there are often many differences from one character to another, and typically, what separates the bad from the good and the good from the great is context within the larger story. What I mean is that nearly any character can be good or even great. He or she just needs to fit well within the story being told. However, since each story differs in tone, plot, music, composition, and every other story element, each character has different requirements to becoming great. So after having seen so many people make blanket statements about what makes a good character, I decided to make this video analyzing how some characters can be weak or underdeveloped in certain areas but still manage to be outstanding.
It would be an unspeakable happiness.
For example, some characters require that the audience sympathize with their circumstances and position, while others require that the audience feels emotionally detached or ignorant of how they came to be. Not every character has to have great motivation or reasoning for their actions. Not every character has to have a dynamic or transformational arc. And not every character has to be relatable to the audience to be compelling. For example, Solomon Northup from director Steve McQueen's 2013 film 12 Years a Slave and the Joker from Christopher Nolan's 2008 film The Dark Knight are two characters that exemplify exactly what I mean. I know that this is a comparison you've probably never heard anyone else use, but since both of these characters work so well within their respective stories while employing wildly different methods, I thought that they would make for an informative and interesting discussion.
You're goddamn right.
Many critics and film essayists may argue that every character has to have compelling motivation and an expansive arc and relatability to the audience and a collection of other important character elements. Now, I'm not saying that those things are irrelevant or unimportant, because they are at times necessary and can contribute to very powerful characterization, but not every character needs all of those. Going back to Solomon and the Joker, we see these characters go through drastically different journeys over the course of their films, but they still manage to be almost indisputably iconic and memorable. But how can that be?
How, Sway? Take a few steps back to go.
You ain't got the answers, man. You ain't got the answers.
Well, it's simple. Like I said earlier, what makes a great character and separates them from the bad or even the good is their role and fit within the film, comic, book, show, or any other storytelling medium. If you haven't seen 12 Years a Slave, first of all, I highly recommend it. But second of all, the story details the grueling progression of Solomon Northup, a free black man who is abducted from his peaceful life in the North and forced into a hellacious life of slavery and sorrow. While I think Solomon is a great character, one who showcases the incredible fortitude some people have, refusing to give up his quest for freedom despite being denied and abused time and time again, he doesn't have the relatability or dramatic arc that some other characters have. This, however, does not mean that he isn't a great character. Solomon's standing as a memorable and iconic character stems from his perseverance and hope, his unyielding desire to return home to his family even after being torn down countless times. Of course, Chiwetel Ejiofor's amazing performance as Solomon contributes to his believability and endearing, but the conjunction of several other elements transforms Solomon from a good character into an all-time great. His characterization places so much emphasis on emotional connection and authenticity and executes it so masterfully that Solomon becomes one of the best characters of the 21st century, despite not having the relatability or transformative arc that some other characters have. Basically, I'm saying that almost no aspect of characterization is absolutely necessary, but the aspects a writer chooses to focus on are what makes or breaks the character. In Solomon's case, Steve McQueen focused on adding sympathy and building an emotional connection to the hardship Solomon faced, rather than trying to forcibly create relatability to the audience, and I believe he made the right choice.
Yeah, well, You know, that's just like your opinion, man.
Solomon's almost unparalleled connection to the larger story makes him a great character that has inspired millions of audience members around the world, even without some of the other aspects of great characterization. I also want to talk about Christopher Nolan's interpretation of the Joker. As I'm sure many of you know, Heath Ledger gave a truly awe-inspiring performance in The Dark Knight that will surely be remembered for decades. However, like Solomon, and perhaps even more so, the Joker doesn't fulfill all of the requirements for a great character, but he almost indisputably is a great character.
Here we go.
Unlike Solomon though, the Joker has basically no motivation, at least in the conventional terms like revenge, escape, or recovery, yet he still finds a way to be compelling and provocative. But how does he do it?
How, Sway?
Well, similar to Solomon, he fits like a puzzle piece within the film. The movie cannot work without him. Now, I'm not saying that because he's the only good thing about the film or anything, like some people might wrongfully have you believe, if I do say so myself. I'm saying that because his dynamic with the lead character Batman is the fulcrum of the film. It is the most important aspect. The Joker stands as a stark ideological contrast to Batman, a person who thrives in chaos and violence. What makes the Joker so memorable is his unpredictability, charisma, mysteriousness, and effect on the story as a whole. Few characters in history can compare to the Joker's control on the audience and on the characters within the film. Everyone always has to pay attention to whatever he's doing, whether it's because of fear or intrigue.
You see, in their last moments, people show you who they really are.
However, since the audience doesn't know much about him or his motivations, and they typically can't personally relate to his actions or ideologies, they shouldn't care as much about him as they do. But the aspects of compelling characterization that Christopher Nolan focuses on enhances rather than deteriorates the Joker's character. If Nolan had included the Joker's backstory and upbringing, it likely would have taken away from his mystery and hostility. Knowing too much about a character can detract from the story and the audience's perception of that character. The Joker also doesn't evolve very much as a person, something which some film analysts may say keeps him from being interesting, but I disagree. In the Joker's case, as with many other characters, his stagnation and stubbornness makes him interesting because of what he represents. Chaos.
You know, I just do things.
The Joker is an unstoppable, mysterious force with almost no clear motivation, history, or evolution, yet he still manages to entice the audience into watching every frame he's in. It's not that his lack of motivation or history or change makes him bad. In fact, it's quite the opposite. It's this very unyielding stagnation that makes him such a great and impactful character. Now, I'm not saying that including a character's history or trying to improve a character's relatability to the audience is a bad thing. Not at all. I'm simply saying that in order to make a great character, it's not about checking off all the boxes. It's about making sure the elements you choose to include resonate well within the audience and the rest of the story. Virtually no character has every aspect of compelling characterization. In fact, including too much about a character or trying to make them too relatable or motivated can actually detract from what you're trying to achieve and make them feel unrealistic or overdeveloped. There are limitless types of characters inside of limitless types of stories, so we can't just narrow down what it means to be great. Instead, we need to be open to a world of new concepts, each with a different way of achieving the perfect character for the perfect story. That's how we get characters like Saitama, Tony Stark, Anton Chigurh, Norman Bates, Maximus, Inigo Montoya, V, Frodo, Neo, Harry Potter, Sorrow, Django, Rocky, Jules, Hannibal Lecter, and the list goes on. The greatest characters in fiction focus on a few aspects, or even just one aspect of compelling characterization, whether it be motivation, history, a dynamic arc, or personality, and makes it so interesting and intertwined within the larger story that they go beyond the ordinary and reach the extraordinary. Alright, that's the video. I just wanted to give my opinion on what it takes to create a great character, and tackle some of the common misconceptions people tend to have when talking about this topic. People generally say that a character doesn't have enough of one thing or another, but oftentimes that's not the main problem. I really appreciate you for sticking around this long. If you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more, please leave a comment and tell me what you'd like to see me cover next. I've got more great stuff coming on the way, and I'm getting better every day. Stay tuned.